A portable generator can make a blackout safer. Put it in the wrong place, and it can become the most dangerous machine on the property. This one is sitting at the open garage door. That feels outdoors. It is not. Carbon monoxide has no smell, no color, and no warning you can trust. A portable generator can produce as much carbon monoxide as hundreds of cars. The United States Consumer Product Safety Commission says to run it outside only, at least 20 feet from the home, with the exhaust pointed away from doors, windows, vents, and any nearby building someone could enter. Keep working carbon monoxide alarms on every level and outside sleeping areas. That is mistake number 1, but placement is only the first link in a safe power path. Before the lights go out, there are 6 more failures worth finding in daylight. A garage with the door raised is still a partially enclosed space. So is a porch, a shed, a breezeway, or a spot tucked under an overhang beside an open window. Fans and open doors do not make those locations safe. Choose the operating spot now. Measure at least 20 feet from the house and other occupied structures. Point the exhaust away. Check for dryer vents, crawl space vents, basement windows, and fresh air intakes that are easy to miss at night. If rain is the reason you are tempted to move the machine closer, solve the rain problem without creating a carbon monoxide problem. Follow the generator manual. Use an open, canopy-like cover intended for safe operation on a dry surface where water cannot pool. Never move it into the garage. Then test the carbon monoxide alarms. The machine belongs outside. The warning system belongs inside. The most dangerous shortcut is also one of the simplest looking. A cord with a male plug on both ends, pushed into a dryer outlet or wall receptacle. That is backfeeding. It can energize exposed prongs, bypass household protection, start a fire, and send electricity onto utility lines that crews may believe are dead. Turning the main breaker off from memory is not a substitute for equipment that physically prevents the utility and generator sources from being connected together. If you want to power selected house circuits, have a qualified electrician install code-compliant transfer equipment, an inlet, and the correct interlock or transfer switch for the panel and generator. If you do not have that system, connect approved loads directly to the generator with properly rated cords. There is no safe homemade version of a double male cord. If one is in the garage, dispose of it safely before an outage makes the shortcut look tempting. The number printed on the box is not a promise that every appliance in the house will start together. Motors and compressors can demand more power when they start than when they are already running. A refrigerator, freezer, well pump, sump pump, furnace blower, and air conditioner may each have a different starting demand. Some equipment may also require 240 volts even when an ordinary outlet nearby does not. Write down the exact loads that matter in your house. Read each nameplate and manual. Separate running watts from starting or surge watts. Confirm voltage. Then compare that plan with the generator's continuous and surge ratings using the manufacturer's instructions. Do not guess from the appliance's size, and do not learn during the storm that the well pump, furnace controls, or medical equipment cannot use the connection you prepared. If the electrical details are unclear, have the plan checked before you buy the machine. A portable generator is usually a limited power source, not a smaller utility company. During one real winter outage, a homeowner expected a modest generator to run electric space heaters. 2 common 1500-watt heaters can use roughly 3,000 watts before the refrigerator, pump, or furnace asks for anything. The arithmetic defeats the plan before comfort improves. Build 3 load tiers. Tier 1 protects people in the house, medical needs, carbon monoxide alarms, refrigeration, a sump or well pump where essential, and the heating or cooling equipment your generator can actually support. Tier 2 is communication and a few lights. Tier 3 is everything convenient but deferrable. Add loads one at a time, and watch the generator rather than the dark rooms. High-resistance heat, electric water heating, clothes drying, ranges, and central air can consume a large share of portable capacity. Your list will differ. The discipline does not preserve the critical loads first. The cord is part of the electrical system. A thin indoor cord is not just inconvenient outside, it can overheat, suffer damage, or drop voltage under a heavy load. Use heavy-duty, outdoor-rated 3-prong extension cords. The cord's wattage or amperage rating must exceed the total load connected to it. Inspect the entire length for cuts, crushed insulation, loose ends, or a missing ground prong. Use enough length to keep the generator at the safe outdoor distance, without pinching the cord in a window or doorway. Keep every connection dry and off wet ground. Operate with dry hands. Protect the generator from rain only in the open, manual-approved way we discussed earlier. Label each cord now: refrigerator, furnace, sump, communications. In the In the dark, a label is faster than tracing orange cable through 3 rooms while the machine idles outside. Fuel planning is not the moment when the tank runs dry at 2 in the morning. Store fuel only in approved, properly labeled containers, outside living areas, and away from ignition sources and fuel-burning appliances. Follow local rules and the generator manufacturer's limits. Gasoline, propane, and natural gas solve different storage and runtime problems. None of them make indoor generator operation safe. Before refueling, turn the generator off and let it cool as the manual directs. Gasoline spilled on hot engine parts can ignite. Do not improvise a refill while the machine is running because the freezer feels urgent. Decide in advance how many hours you expect to run, which loads can cycle, and how you will know when fuel is getting low. A refrigerator and freezer usually do not need every convenience load running beside them. A written fuel and load schedule can turn one tank into a longer, quieter, more controlled outage. All right. Generators do not maintain themselves while they wait. Batteries discharge. Fuel ages. Oil levels change. Carburetors, plugs, valves, and cords reveal problems only when somebody asks the machine to work. Follow the maintenance and exercise schedule in your owner's manual. Then rehearse the exact setup you expect to use. Place the generator at the safe outdoor location. Route the real cords. Start with electrical loads disconnected. Follow the manual's starting and warm-up sequence and add the planned loads one at a time. Confirm that pumps actually start, furnace controls behave normally, refrigeration cycles, and sensitive equipment accepts the generator's power. Do not assume the label on the box settled those questions. For shutdown, turn off or disconnect powered appliances before stopping the generator, and follow the manual's cooldown and fuel valve sequence. Let the rehearsal expose awkward cord routes, missing adapters, weak batteries, low oil, or an unrealistic load list while the utility is still on. The best emergency test is the one that was not an emergency. Here is the field check. Mark the outdoor operating spot at least 20 feet from the home. Test the carbon monoxide alarms. Decide whether loads connect directly by rated cords or through professionally installed transfer equipment. Write the starting and running needs of every critical load. Label the cords. Inspect the fuel containers. Then run the complete setup once, in daylight, using the owner's manual. 7 mistakes become 7 checkpoints: air, connection, load priority, cords, fuel, and rehearsal. When those are settled before the storm, the generator stops being a mystery and becomes a tool. Which load would be hardest for your home to lose? Refrigeration, a well pump, a sump pump, heat, cooling, or medical equipment? Write it in the comments, and subscribe to the Homeowner's Field Manual for practical guidance that helps your home cost less, last longer, and stay dependable.